Welcome to this session on menopause awareness in the workplace. We're delighted to be joined by Sarah Howson, who's a HR advisor at Advisor Plus, and Simon Fowler, who's the CEO of Empowering People Group and Advisor Plus. Hi, Sarah. Could you tell us some more about yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah. I am a advisor with Advisor Plus. I've been with them for 2 years. Previously, I had over 30 years experience in retail management, and I work on the Sainsbury's account.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. And Simon, if you could introduce yourself too.
So, as you said, I'm the CEO of Empowering People Group. I've been here the whole time of 5 weeks. So really enjoying it. Really interested to talk about this subject today, obviously having gone through it with a partner and other people in my life.
And you're getting straight involved, Simon. That's what we like. So menopause is such a hot topic, but what does it really mean to be a menopause conscious employer? So to dispel some myths and get a better understanding of how everyone can improve inclusion for those experiencing any stage of the menopause, we've brought together our two colleagues with a really diverse experience to share their insights and to help break the stigma around managing menopause in work. So welcome to both of you, and let's dive straight in. Sarah, I'll start with you first, if that's okay. So as someone who has experience managing the menopause at work, what can you tell us about the impact that's had on your work life?
Well, as I said, my previous role was in retail management for 30 years. So I was very experienced, very confident, felt I was good at what I did. But looking back, when I started going through the menopause, I just lost so much confidence. I felt I wasn't capable. I was double checking everything I was doing. I even started to have panic attacks, and I was suffering with terrible insomnia, which meant I sort of struggled to even get out of bed in the morning. And I'd question my decisions, which I'd never sort of done before. And it wasn't just the mental side; it was also the physical symptoms, which I was really not aware of at the time. So I never felt my best. I had hair loss, I had hot flushes, joint pains, itchy skin, etc. And memory lapses really made me feel like I was losing it and I didn't know what was happening to me. But as a somebody in that role, and I was a manager of a team, I just sort of soldiered on and not really spoke to anybody about it.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. I think one of the things you said there that was so insightful is almost kind of the symptoms you weren't maybe aware of. So what are the things that you kind of wish you had known about the menopause before you went through it?
I definitely wish I'd known that there was over 35 symptoms. So I think a lot of women just think it's hot flushes, and it's brain fog, and you just soldier on. It's just something you go through. And that's the other thing. It isn't something you go through. It's a hormonal change that is permanent, and it depends on what varying degree a woman gets it, that she needs to deal with it and get the correct treatment. So as I said, I really wish I'd known that there was all those symptoms. I also wish that I didn't think that HRT was a scary word. I think with all the media, I just felt it caused breast cancer, so I didn't even think about it. But really, that's probably been my saviour. So, but every woman's different, and everybody's going to get different symptoms and have different treatments. So. I also wish I knew there was some support out there, which at the time for me, because of my age, it wasn't there as much as it is now. But there's loads of podcasts, there's loads of websites, books, etc., that really help to sort of dispel the stigma and that get it out there and talk about it. I wish I'd spoke to my GP earlier as well. And I know now that a lot of GP surgeries have like menopause champions, which I think is really good as well.
I think, Sarah, if I can just come in there as well, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? It's it's that people think there is a stigma around it, and it just feels so wrong. Because obviously, when my wife started to go through it, I wanted to understand, is my nature. I wanted to understand more about it so I could support her. And your point about the symptoms, when I found out there was 38 symptoms, I was like, I had no idea. We could all name probably two or three of the normal, the ones that everybody talks about. And I think, the fact that as a woman going through it didn't want to go and talk about it. And like at any one point, 50% of the female population is going through. So 50% of 50% of our population is going through it. And yet still, even today, people don't feel okay to talk about it. You know, for me, I find that amazing.
I know, and especially in the workplace, if you would feel like if I talk about it, does it mean that I'm failing and I'm weak? And I think that was a big deal with me. I thought I didn't want to come over that I couldn't cope with this new thing that I'm having to deal with, which is crazy. Because if you had another illness and you needed to take medication, you would talk about it, wouldn't you? So
Yeah, 100%. And you know, we read things about people, our female colleagues not wanting to book time off against menopause, and it's like that's just compounding the whole feeling that you're having, because you can't even talk to your employer about it, which would, how much like stress would that have taken out of the situation if you'd had an employer who'd gone, okay, we understand 50% of the population are going through it at any one time, you know, we'll adjust accordingly and support you through it. It's I was really surprised. And as you say, now when you look at the support and some of the forums and some of the information that's available now, I mean, apart from massively eye-opening, it is there if you know to go and look for it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you both. They were both great answers. And I think, as you say, calling out that support and those invaluable resources is so important so that people are aware of where they can get that help. And I think, Simon, that point you just made about that kind of support and maybe some adjustments that may be needed. So, Sarah, can I ask what adjustments would have made a significant difference to your working day?
I think the main one is having the confidence and feeling that my line manager was approachable to talk to, and have that sort of open door policy where they knew what I was going through, and I'd been honest and said, look, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm going to do to try and deal with it, and not feel alone. That's one of the main things. With in some basic stuff logistically, you know, could I have changed my shift, come in later? I'm sure I could have done. I really struggled in the mornings. If I was in the office, was there a fan available? You know, things like that. And just time to address the symptoms. So I may have needed time off to go and see my GP, you know, and like Simon said, I never had to take any time off, but some women might do, you know, and if they do start taking HRT treatments, etc., or going through very severe symptoms, they might need to have that time off and not be feel chastised for having been time off for something called the menopause. You know, it should be considered like any other sort of illness that someone's going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I suppose kind of leading off the back of that and some of the experience you've had, what does it mean to you to work for a company that does strive to raise awareness and make a more inclusive environment for those that are experiencing the menopause?
Oh, I think it's so important. I know we've got a predominantly female workforce at Advisor Plus, but I still feel that it just makes women feel heard and supported. And I think menopause awareness is for all colleagues, not just women. And I think the more that we get, you know, males, family, friends, etc., aware of it, the more the stigma is going to go away. It's all about education, isn't it? And having that confidence to talk about it in the workplace. It just should be every day. It should be an everyday subject. It shouldn't be like the menopause, and it should be, oh yeah, I'm going through the menopause. And it's there's 3 stages of the menopause, and a lot of younger women in their early 40s or even earlier, if they've got some medical conditions, they will go through it a lot earlier than they think. It's not an old woman's symptom. It can affect everybody, a lot of women when they don't expect it.
Yeah, I think from an employer perspective as well, it's terrible to think that our female colleagues might be resigning because of how they feel at a time in their life when we all look for experience. So at a time in their life when they've got that experience of the career that they're in or whatever it is, and they're absolutely at their best, they go through something called menopause and they resign because we as an if we didn't, we do, but as an organization, if we didn't look for that, so we're just losing all of that experience for absolutely no reason, because the menopause is just a thing that 50% of the population is going to go through, and it should be just an open conversation. There should be no stigma attached to it in the slightest. I mean, we can have, and we work with people and we create policies and we do training around it, but actually that's really great, and I think I probably would have really benefited from that, but when I look back to kind of when, like, perhaps my mum went through it, to be honest, I couldn't tell you when she went through it, which is, actually quite upsetting. But, it's like when you look at those things, it just should be about menopause. Is, as you say, it's menopause. It's not about that. It's just something that 50% of the population is going to go through, and for all of the males around, it's going to affect you. Either a partner or a mother or a friend or somebody. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be there to support them? It's just something that we really, really need to focus on, I think.
Yeah. And it's important to know that a woman will have different symptoms. Some women will go through it and not have any bad symptoms, but it doesn't mean that another woman won't. So it's about being understanding, women to women as well, going, well, I didn't have those, I was fine. It's like, yeah, I know everybody's different and everybody's going to go through their own menopause journey.
Yeah, and it's like you said at the start, Sarah, it made me feel a bit better, actually, because I think you said, I thought there was only about 3 symptoms. It's not a male or female thing. It's a society thing that we all need to know more about it, so that we all can adapt, either the way we work or the way we are at home or with friends or whatever it is.
Definitely. Thank you both for such insightful answers there. And Sarah, thank you so much for obviously everything you've shared. You've been really vulnerable and open with us, which is incredible at helping to break the stigma that we've just been discussing, and obviously helping with that education. And it's exactly as you've just said, it's the conversations between women and with women, and getting all that information, which is so invaluable. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm hopefully you'll chip in as well, but Simon, we do have some questions for you as well.
Okay.
So thank you. So the menopause has been, as we've just said, very much a female issue in the past, and as we've recognised, times are changing, and we're all beginning to understand that improving inclusion means improving that understanding, and it is awareness for men and for those that won't ever experience the menopause firsthand. So I've got a bit of a personal question for you as well first, if that's okay.
Sure.
So as a husband who has experienced your partner going through the menopause, what did you learn that you didn't know before?
Great question. I suppose I learned that I knew absolutely nothing, apart from a few stereotypical things about the menopause. So I think, as I just mentioned, I kind of, when I started to understand a bit more about it, and I'm by no means an expert, but when I started to understand a bit more about it, I reflected that I learned that I hadn't supported other female members of my family or friends in probably the best way. But yeah, the 38 symptoms is a classic, isn't it? It's like there's 38 symptoms, and as you said, Sarah, different women go through it in different ways, and so when you start doing some reading, there are women going through stages of the menopause that don't realize they're going through stages of the menopause because they don't have the obvious, hot flushes or, etc. They don't have those ones that we sort of stereotypically think of menopause. So I think, what I learned was that we don't know very much about it as a society. And it was weird, actually, for me, because I hadn't thought about my mum going through it, but actually the stigma of it didn't occur to me, because as Jazz went, until I started doing research, and then you kind of like realize that nobody's talking about it. They might be going and doing research, but there's nobody talking about it. For me, it was the most natural thing in the world to support Jazz going through it.
Yeah, I spoke to my mum about the menopause as well recently, and because I didn't know she was going through it, and she's very much said when she was growing up, and her mum and her grandma, it was very much, you just get on with it, you just get through it, and the detrimental of their health. It's crazy, isn't it? And it was just yeah, it's just that stigma, isn't it? But yeah, just to have to go through it and there's no support there, it's crazy because it's something that happens, like Simon said, to 50% of the population.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you both again for the answers there. So I think, again, just touching on what you've just said there around the stigma and everything that is associated with it. So Simon, based on your experience, what would you say your vision is for how organisations can help to break down those barriers and overcome any stigma that is associated with the impact of the menopause?
So I think there are some, for me, there are some basics that absolutely have to be done. So, and I think would benefit the whole of society as employers, so we can actually give something back, particularly. So I think awareness. So to our entire workforce, whether male or female, I don't think it matters, bearing in mind the conversation we just had about, even females don't understand it well enough. So I think there's training and awareness that we need to make to the whole of an organization. I think there's probably some specific training around exec and leadership teams, so they understand that talking about it is actually a good thing, because most things in an organization kind of start at the top and cascade down, really. But for me, I think, yeah, it's awareness, so that you can pick up when a colleague might be having some, or a colleague can come to you and say, I'm going to have a day off and it's because I've got this symptom, or I need to go and see my doctor because I need to go and discuss HRT or whatever it is, and actually have that conversation. I mean, how amazing would that have been, Sarah? And there needs to be a zero tolerance of any of the stereotypical sort of sniggering in the background or stuff that may have happened in the past. And all of our managers need to understand that it's a completely normal thing. And sorry to quote the thing again, 50% of the population are going to go through it. And in Empowering People's case, probably about 80% of our workforce are going to go through it, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm sure you've both seen, but I just wanted to call out with some of the recent high profile cases that we've been seeing where there's been successful tribunal claims. So, for example, I know there's the recent Direct Line example where a female was awarded 65,000 after the company failed to make some reasonable adjustments to support her. So I suppose on the back of that, what practical steps should organisations take to improve the experience of menopausal employees?
I think it's probably related to my previous answer, really, which is and I think things like I obviously read about the Direct Line case, and I think it's absolutely right, because unfortunately, businesses at the end of the day are also about money as well as people, and so we need to approach it on both. It needs to be not acceptable that organisations don't make changes. If somebody was disabled or something, they would absolutely make changes. So why shouldn't we make changes for menopause symptoms and be held responsible if we don't, basically. But I think it just comes down to the awareness that it's an important factor. It's really strange, sorry, but it's just really strange when you think about it. Is there anything that affects so much? Because I mean, I appreciate I'm never going to experience it firsthand. I absolutely experience it secondhand, of course. And so just morally, and as a human being, it's just, we've just got to get rid of this stigma in organisations, but I think absolutely in society, and it's probably from society and businesses working together that we can have a huge impact.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose another thing is having a menopause policy is a really great first step that is helping to cultivate that more inclusive environment for our menopausal employees. But how do we ensure individuals across the business understand the part that they all play? And I think, as you've touched on, it's men and women in improving that inclusion.
Yeah. I mean, I think a menopause policy is a good step. I think I'm probably going to say something slightly unusual, in that I think you have to be very careful how you roll that out, because again, it's sort of singling out menopause and that thing that feeling that Sarah mentioned previously. It's all right having a menopause policy, but you've got to have the education that goes with it, because we've got a menopause policy, that's okay, but you're almost sort of saying, this is something a bit unusual, so we have to have a policy for it. Do you know what I mean? And you need to be very careful. I think that when you roll it out, and you should absolutely have one, you roll it out with education, and through leadership, and people showing that absolutely there is no stigma whatsoever attached with menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, the key thing is the education and that coaching and support from, as you say, the leaders as well as the business as part of that as well.
I just think it's refreshing that we're talking about it. It's nice to have Simon, a male, involved as well. It's not just a women's group talking about it. I think it's important, like we've said before, that it's education and it's for all colleagues in the workplace, not just for women.
Yeah, definitely. Anything further from yourself, Simon?
Yeah, I'm very glad to be involved, and I think it definitely isn't a female issue; it's a society issue for me. And I think if I feel passionately about it, as I hope you can tell, but also I just think if me coming onto this helps, the male members of our organisation and society kind of realise that it's something for all of us, then I think that's a great step forward.
Great. Thank you both so much. And I'd just like to say this has been so incredibly insightful for me. And I really hope that we can start to see more and more of these conversations happening around the workplace. It's exactly as you've both just kind of reflected on, that we need to see this becoming the norm so that people are able to openly talk about, the adjustments that individuals may need to help them feel as engaged and, as more importantly, as included as possible. So yeah, thank you both so much for sharing your insights, and Sarah as well for obviously touching on your experiences as well. That's been so insightful and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Sarah.